everybody. I am Dot Butler from the Winchest Coalition for a Safe Community. And this morning we're talking about the Family Dinner Project. We have brought in Fishel back, who came
2019.
2019, and it seems like all we ever do is report before COVID. Can't wait to start saying we don't have to do that any longer. We try and run programming that is not just a one and done, and when we start working on topics, especially around mental health and so forth, we like to revisit the information that we shared with people before, because basically if we're still working on change. And change is so important. We have been working, we all know social media, that's constantly in our vocabulary, in our lives, and a lot of the things that we're seeing on social media affect the Family Dinner Project, and the need for us to take a deep breath, to regroup. I was just sharing with Katie, my neighbors had me over for my birthday, and my neighbor Sarah is a psychologist, and she has 3 children who are like my grandchildren. And we actually began the evening sitting around a delightful table with a game. And the kids were really into it, and I was like, oh, okay. But then I really got into it too, when they shared before I had to share, which was kind of nice, because it kind of got me going to think about what am I going to say. But I was just talking to Katie, and Katie plays these games as well. So there's a packet here on the table for people to take away. I'm going to try and leave some of this information at the library to see in the children's room if they would be willing to pass out the information as well. I have extra packets, so if anybody wants to take one for a friend or a family member, whatever, please feel welcome to take one, okay? So I've done enough talking. I'm going to turn it over to you, and please put us back in perspective.
Okay.
I think that's
Right. Thank you so much, Dot. And thank you for coming out on such a freezing cold morning. I'm going to talk today about why I think family mealtime is one of the most important things that parents can do for their families. I'm going to try to make a case for that. I'm going to try to talk about family dinner in a non-nostalgic way. I'm not trying to bring us back to the 1950s. Family dinner needs to be updated. It needs to be doable for busy, very scheduled families of the 21st century. And I'm going to ask you to think a little bit about what gets in your way or has gotten in your way when you did family dinners, and we're going to sort of brainstorm some workarounds to those common challenges, and I'll share with you some of what I've learned over the last 15 years of being involved with the Family Dinner Project. I co-founded it in 2010, and I'm now the executive director. And in those 15 years, I've talked to thousands of families and have learned a lot about workarounds to common problems. So I want to share some of what I've learned with you all. So I also want to say I'm a family therapist, and I realized years ago that a lot of what I try to do as a family therapist, getting families to talk, have a reliable, safe place, to share their feelings and their ideas, have important conversations. All of these things are things that can happen for free every night of the week at home in an organic, natural way. And as I read the research about the benefits of regular family dinner, mental health benefits, nutritional, academic benefits, I started to realize I could almost be out of a job as a family therapist if more families had family dinners. So I want to start with that idea and just back it up with the research. I'm just going to take you on a quick spin through some of the research and share a piece of research that I just had published a couple months ago. So we'll sort of come up to that in just a minute, but here we go with some slides. So, 25 years of scientific research show that regular family dinners are good for the brain, for the body, and for the mental health of children, adolescents, and also adults. We'll look into that research too. Just maybe I could make this a little less awkward by putting this on my lap. No. You know, for now, I think I'll stand. Okay. Is that okay? All right. Okay. So, in terms of the benefits academically for kids, for young kids, as I know many of you have, for preschoolers and toddlers, the language that kids hear around the dinner table is rich in rare words, rare for them relative to their age. In fact, one study showed that kids hear 10 times more unusual words around the dinner table than they do from being read to. And I'm all for being read to, but in terms of vocabulary boosting, it's nutrient-rich conversation for kids, their parents talking about getting into a traffic jam and being worried about getting to work on time, or were you able to feed the dog tonight, and what do we think about us throwing up, or whatever it might be. These little stories that parents share with each other are often rich in new vocabulary. And the reason that's significant is that young kids who have bigger vocabularies learn to read earlier and more easily than kids with slimmer vocabularies. And then it turns out that from elementary through high school, kids who have regular family dinners do better in school. They do better on achievement tests. And those effects are stronger even than doing homework, doing art, doing sports. I'm going to keep saying regular family dinners, and that's a researcher's language, and what researchers mean by that is 5 or more meals a week. Those could be dinners. They could be a mix of dinners and breakfasts and weekend brunches. And I'm just going to insert here something I've learned just in the last year when I've done an analysis of hundreds of studies. Frequency, so that 5 or more, seems to matter most for the nutritional benefits of family dinner. So kids tend to eat more healthily, eat more fruits and vegetables if they have 5 or more family meals a week. But in terms of the social emotional benefits, we can't really put a number on those. The benefits from the social and emotional pluses come from the quality of the atmosphere around the table. And that could be once a week, it could be twice a week. So I don't want you to feel like hung up, if you only do 3 meals a week, great. If those meals are warm and connected and kids feel bonded and they look forward to them and you look forward to them, that's way more important in terms of the mental health benefits than the frequency. Okay, so that's just, a little aside. Going back to the more formal ideas, in terms of physical and nutritional benefits, kids who have family dinners tend to eat less sugar and fat and salt and more fruits and vegetables and fiber and vitamins than kids who have restaurant equivalents or fast food equivalents. They tend to eat, if they eat dinner, they tend to eat breakfast. When they grow up and they're young adults, as some of you have young adults, if they grew up having regular family dinners, when they're on their own, they tend to eat more healthily and have lower rates of obesity. There are lower rates of eating disorders. Asthma, in several studies, have shown to be reduced by regular family dinners, perhaps because of the lowered anxiety that comes from eating. And there's better cardiovascular health in teens. Okay. But the mental health benefits is really, I think, the most exciting connection between family dinners and other benefits. It's associated with lower rates of behavioral problems, eating disorders, as I said, substance use, teenage pregnancy, lower rates of depression and anxiety. Kids, on the upside, kids feeling more resilient, having higher self-esteem, and feeling more connected to their parents. So you might be wondering, you might be wondering about adults. It's a lot of effort to make dinner night after night. And of course, we're happy to do it for our kids, particularly knowing how beneficial it is. But it turns out that regular dinners are also good for adults, whether they're eating with kids or with another person or with their friends or in a senior center. Regular or eating with others is associated for adults with mental health benefits, greater self-esteem, again, less depression and anxiety, and better eating habits, less binging and dieting, and higher intake of fruits and vegetables. So you might also wonder, how could something so simple pack such a punch? Where do all these benefits come from? Why? And I think there are many reasons. I think part of the nutritional benefits come from just the slowing down of the eating process when you eat with other people and you talk to them. You know, compare that to sitting in front of a TV and just mindlessly scarfing down a meal. If you're talking to people, you have a chance to wait for your brain to catch up with satiety cues in your stomach, and maybe you don't eat everything on your plate. So that's maybe the simplest explanation. The most powerful one is that in 21st century America, I think dinner is the most reliable time that most of us have to connect with each other. And when kids know, okay, 6:30 tonight, I'm going to have a chance to talk about my day, my parents are going to listen to me, I'm going to, push back from other cares. This kind of connection, this kind of relaxation is like a seatbelt on the potholed road of childhood and adolescence. It's also a time for parents to check in and catch small problems before they mushroom. And dinner is a ritual, and rituals are really comforting for kids and adults. It's something predictable that happens at a particular place, often around the kitchen table, at a particular time. We draw a boundary so that the hubbub of everyday life doesn't usually intrude. Maybe we put our phones away. So it's this sort of oasis, this pause in the busy, busy days that most of us are engaged in. And it allows some continuity, it allows an anchor, it allows some stability, and these are all really important for our sanity. And dinner, like any good ritual, has symbols and symbolic meaning. Food is usually the main symbol, and it can be a symbol of love and nurture, adventure, if you're somebody who likes to cook new and interesting things from different cultures. Sadly, it also can be a symbol of control and dominance. So dinners aren't always so delightful, but we're going to stick to trying to make them that. Think about the most positive ones. Family dinner is also the prime time of the day when we tell stories. We tell stories about our own days, we ask about our kids, but it's also a chance to tell stories about people who can't be with us, either because they've died or because they live far away. And kids who know their family stories, this is another block of research, kids who know their family stories have higher self-esteem, greater resilience, and I think this is because family stories help kids feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. They can see that there are many ways that adult lives can unfold, not just the way their parents' lives have unfolded. And I think that that can give perspective and is very helpful for kids. Tell us again about Monet, Grandpa. sometimes parents say, well, what kind of stories should we be telling? And, there's an unlimited number. I think when you have young kids, telling stories about when you were the same age as your child. When I was 4, I got lost in a supermarket, just like, when you were 4, so, and let me tell you what happened, and I got found, and so on. Young kids tend to be quite egocentric, so that, hearing about when they were your age kind of helps make the connection, or telling young kids stories about an animal that you had, or an animal that your grandparent had, stories about holidays, overcoming a challenge, what I call making lemonade out of lemon stories, story about something difficult that happened and how you got through it, maybe through the kindness of a friend or a stranger, or something you learned from that, a funny story, how you picked your child's name is a great story, or a story about food. This is a cake that my mom used to make. My mom was an artist, and she loved dinner conversation, but not so much, as she would say, being stuck in the kitchen. So she would whirl and whirl very, very fast through cooking. I never saw her spend more than 15 minutes in the kitchen. And this cake was an ice cream cake. She could make it in 10 minutes. I can make it in about 15. And I love to make it. It reminds me of her, and it's got nice colors and has kind of artistic flair to it. So that is a story I like to tell. So a sidebar, I mentioned at the beginning, we're not talking about 1950s nostalgia. Fortunately, that ship has sailed when women were, at home in the kitchen. Most American families at some point have both parents working outside the home, and it's, we're busier as families than we were in the 50s and 60s. So family dinner is any 2 people, doesn't have to be the whole family sitting down at a time. It could be sequentially, 2 people and then another 2 and another 3. That counts as a family dinner. It can include shortcuts. As the secret sauce of family dinner does not come from the food. So if it's shortcuts, if it's takeout, it's what happens around the table. It's best not to have gadgets on because it's hard for kids and adults to feel like they really matter if you're checking your phone or you're texting with somebody who's not there. But we have a whole page on the website about technology, and there are games there that include technology, that include phones that you could use at the dinner table. So if it's about connecting, using phones to connect with people at the table, that might be a reason to have them for some families. Talking is better than silence. As I was saying earlier, don't be constrained by the 5 days a week. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect manners. It doesn't have to be heirloom tomatoes. It doesn't have to be long. The average American meal is 22 minutes. And for families with younger kids, a 5-minute meal may be great and something to build on as kids get older. Okay, so most American families, parents, when surveyed, say, yeah, it's a good idea. We really would like to have family dinners. We'd like to have more family dinners. But it turns out that only about 40% of American families are currently 40 to 50. I think it's a little bit higher. My recent research was about family dinners during the pandemic. And what I found was that because of lockdown, because of no restaurants open, that there was a surge in the percentage of families having dinner together during the pandemic. And even though it wasn't anything that anybody wanted or asked for, frankly, it turned out that for families who increased the number of family dinners, they also found that the quality of the atmosphere also increased. So the more family dinners they had, the more they connected with one another, the more expressions of gratitude, the more fun they had. And then we also found that the families who enjoyed family dinners, it worked the other way. They also increased the number of family dinners. But anyway, I stand by I'd say 40 to 50 families, percentage of American families are currently having regular family dinners. So the Family Dinner Project is built on why family dinners are so important. That's the why is the research, and the Family Dinner Project is the how. So we've been working for 15 years to try to figure out ways to make it easier, more doable, more fun, more meaningful for more families to have family dinner. And I want to share, sort of lead you to some of the resources that you might find on our website, thefamilydinnerproject.org. There are hundreds and hundreds of resources there. And here are some of the types of resources you'll find. Families said to us, well, what should I make tonight? You know, it's 5 o'clock, I don't know, I have no idea. And so we came up with this idea of dinner tonight. And these are recipes. This is actually a resource you can sign up for, and it lands in your inbox every night, or you can go on the website and see it. And it is an easy recipe, 30 minutes or less, 8 or fewer ingredients, and a game to play that night and a conversation starter. And then we also have budget-friendly dinner tonights, which is the same thing, but the recipes comport with SNAP guidelines. So each meal comes out at about $2.10 per person. And they're done a week at a time so that you shop for all the meals at once, and there's a grocery list for that week. So that's one set of resources. Then we have a monthly newsletter that clusters around different topics, sometimes quite serious, like how to prevent eating disorders at the dinner table, the connection between substance use and regular family dinner, how to get toddlers to enjoy family dinner. That was a couple of months ago. This month, being January, is about setting intentions rather than resolutions around what you want to focus on as a family, whether it's more adventure, whether it's less conflict, less sharing the workload, so kind of setting an intention for the year. And each newsletter clusters or is organized around the 3 pillars of a great family dinner: food, fun, and conversation. And you've probably noticed all of our resources have those 3 elements. Then we have lots of conversation starters. Some of these are one-offs, and I think Dot Xerox for you. Yeah, so 100 ways to ask how was your day instead of saying how was your day and maybe getting a monosyllabic answer. That is also right now on our homepage on the website. So there are lots of those, some whimsical, some serious, some head-scratching. And then there are juicier conversation materials that are maybe 5 questions on a particular topic. Might be about mental health or resilience or media literacy or anti-racism. So there are lots of those that are for kind of deeper conversations at the dinner table. A couple of years ago, we developed a new trove of resources thanks to some funding we got. And I interviewed experts who knew a lot about feeding and sensory and behavioral challenges that some kids have at the dinner table. Kids who were fidgety, maybe because they have ADHD, kids with sensory sensitivities, perhaps because they're on the autism spectrum. And we wanted to welcome families who have kids for whom mealtime may not be the easiest place, to have some new ideas, some games, some activities, and some expert opinions or ideas on these blog posts on our website. It's all translated into Spanish as well. We also now have some short videos on that same landing page, the welcoming table. And then there are a bunch of games. Games are a terrific way to lighten the mood, to elicit conversation. I'll just give a quick shout out to the top 3 there. Rose, Thorn, and Bud, to start a meal by saying, let's go around the table, and each person say a rose of their day, something positive that happened, a thorn, something difficult or unpleasant that happened, and a bud is something you hope will happen tomorrow. And it's, just a quick way for everybody to find their voice that night. 2 truths and a lie, I think particularly popular among teenagers, young adults. You go around the table and tell 2 short stories about something that actually happened today, and one that's just a tall tale. And then people try to guess what's the thing that really didn't happen today. And then this one I learned at a gathering just like this with parents, 20 questions about a family memory. Each person thinks about a family memory that includes everybody at the table, and then everybody asks yes/no questions to try to guess what the memory is. Did this happen on a vacation? Were we under the age of 5? Were there tears involved? Was there food involved? And eventually the memory gets guessed. And what I love about this game is that it gives parents a chance to find out what's sort of top of mind, what's getting encoded in their children's brains. And it gives parents a chance to bring forth memories that they treasure or find funny, that they want to be kind of cataloged by their kids. They want their kids to remember. And I found this particularly powerful during the pandemic because it was a way for families to remember that they had other memories besides the difficult ones that they were having right now. So my kids are in their 30s, and they will still humor me. Usually on Mother's Day, they'll play a round of this with me. But there are many, dozens of games on the website organized by age. These are the deeper conversations I was mentioning, the recipe for conversations about anti-racism, about resilience. And then we wrote a book a few years ago, Eat, Laugh, Talk, that was 52 weeks of food, fun, and conversation. And it's organized, it's based on families that we've worked with over the years, and it's all based on overcoming obstacles, common obstacles to family dinner. And then this is something that a lot of families enjoy, which is to cut up perhaps the 100 different ways to ask, how was your day? To cut them up according to what you think would be interesting, or asking your kids to pick some conversation starters and put it in a jar and just have it on the table. And when things flag or you want a little infusion of something different, you can just pull out one of the slips and see if anybody wants to answer a question. So let's see. Name 3 things that made you happy today. Did you sing any songs today? Can you sing one for me? Anyway, just a little flavor there. So, I wanted to pivot to your family dinners, and I also will kind of bring in some of the wisdom I've learned from other family dinners. What gets in the way is, family dinner is a simple idea, but it's not an easy idea. And when I say family dinner, I think, it's just like a code, or I'm meaning everything else, breakfast and snacks and weekend get-togethers with extended family. So it seems that there are recurring obstacles that I hear about, but I wonder what are things that get in your way. And I think we've mentioned them a little bit, the scheduling, not having everybody on the same schedule can be, or that schedule that comes right in the middle of the dinner hour, maybe is one obstacle. So we've got busy schedules, we've got, I won't say picky eating, there's a sort of disparaging tone to that, but discerning eaters, selective eaters, different tastes and palates in a family. What else?
Definitely technology.
I think families really vary on their approach to that. I mean, some take a really no-nonsense line, like everybody check your phones in the cabinet before you come in, or put them in a basket. Anybody who touches a phone has to do the dishes. But other families say, well, we're a little more flexible. If the phone is in the service of sharing information or solving a debate that, to fact check on Google, that's okay. Or if you want to share a photo that you took or received during the day and show everybody, or you want to play a game, a hot potato game where you set the timer, and when the thing goes off, you take a selfie, and then you set it again and pass the phone around. So everybody takes a selfie, and then you've got a little record of dinner. If you can't beat them, join them. And we have a whole set of resources called Dinner and a Movie. I think Ratatouille is there, but they're around different themes: women in films, environmental issues, justice, social justice issues, and there are conversation starters, and there's meals to make that go with the movie. So this is sort of counterintuitive, I think, but there's research to back up this idea that if you say to your kids, you can't have your cookie, you can't have your ice cream until you eat your peas,
Very common.
which is very common, what that seems to do is make the dessert more desirable and the peas less desirable. And so it has a sort of boomerang effect. I think the general advice is the less said about the food, the better, the less cajoling. Just have one more bite, or what, do you really need a third portion? All that talk is not conducive to a warm, fun atmosphere, and it also doesn't seem to do much for your kids' eating behavior either. Just creates a lot of tension, I think. Asking kids to try something, just to lick it and offer 3 words, which interrupts the yuck, I don't want that. They're focusing more like, what 3 words describe this taste? Some kids with sensory sensitivities don't like the smell of the food, so there might be a candle that disguises the smell, or the food you might do it in increments, so you have the food on the stove, and then you might the next night bring it to the table, and then the food might be eaten by those who want it. So you might do a sort of behavioral exposure that way. Often kids who reject a lot of foods may warm up to it if they cook it, if they slather oil on vegetables that get roasted. Some kids don't like slimy food, so cooking vegetables at a high heat, and so they come out crispy, may make them more palatable. Cut down on snacking is the advice I've heard most from pediatricians, so that kids come a little hungrier. Nutritionists talk about the rule of 15. Don't give up on a new food until you've offered it at least 15 times, which maybe is a bit excessive. And I think the best advice is to model your own enjoyment, to serve food family style, and to show that you're enjoying the food.